Tareq Hadad. Tareq moved to Canada in December 2015 as a Syrian newcomer. He studied medicine at Damascus University and proceeded to join the medical relief efforts for the Syrian refugees with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and the World Health Organization through a local organization when he arrived to Lebanon in 2013 as a refugee himself. Passionate about peace and youth entrepreneurship, he and his family started their company, Peace by Chocolate, in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, to sponsor peace-building projects and support the local economy. They now employ several people. The company turned into a phenomenon that inspired people around the world. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself spoke about Peace by Chocolate at the UN Summit in September 2016 in New York, noting that it is a remarkable example of contributions of newcomers in their communities. Tareq is also trying to complete his medical degree here in Canada. He is now working on his Bachelor of Science here at St. FX. Grateful for encouragement and support from his new community, he is now also more involved in public speeches, media campaigns, and interviews to support youth entrepreneurial skills, as well as raising awareness about Syrian youth and Syrian refugees all around the world. Please join me in welcoming Tareq for his presentation of social justice from newcomers' perspectives.
Well, let me start by asking you a question. This is my habit. I usually love, to start by asking questions. Who thinks himself a rich or a super rich man? Please raise your hand. So, who thinks his parents are super rich or just they have lots of money? Please raise your hand. I know that you came from Christmas, your bucket was full of money, so. And the last question, who thinks any of his ancestors, sorry, excuse me, because I love really to know whose ancestors were really rich when they came here to Canada. Okay, so coming back to Syria, when I was asking that question to the people that I knew, when I was asking who is rich and who is vulnerable, I just recognized there is a huge gap, in the Syrian community between the vulnerable people and the super rich people. I understand justice.
It's just the equality of distribution of resources. When I was in my family, there are people who are billionaires. But on the other hand, in Syria, there are people who couldn't find, the money to eat their daily food, or to go to the grocery stores, or to go to the BHCs, to the primary healthcare centers, to go to the hospitals to treat their children. That was inequality. That was just because Syria was a dictatorship that was ruled by ignorant people, that they couldn't know that Syria, it's in the Middle East, say they stereotyped, that case on the Syrians. They said it's normal, to find like 1% of the Syrians, they own around 80%, of the resources in the community. They were telling me that, but I couldn't believe that. This is not a human. This is really killing, the people who are really fighting to get their daily food for their children. Since we left Syria in 2011 and we became refugees in Lebanon, I understood the justice in a different way when I became refugee. When we passed the Lebanese borders and became refugees, and my father asked me, where shall we go now? I said, I don't know. We went to the refugee camp. After 1 month, we were registered in the United Nations as refugees. And being refugee in Lebanon means that you lost your home, you lost your dreams, you lost everything you were preparing for you and your siblings and everybody in your family to live. Being a refugee means you lost the most important thing in your life, your sense of belonging. Being a refugee in Lebanon means that we became numbers. I went to the United Nations to get registered there, and they told me that, what's your number? I said, my name is Tareq. They said, no, we are asking you about your number. I said, I'm not a number. I'm a human being. I just left my home before a month. I just lost my dreams before a month. I couldn't just come as a number to Lebanon. This is not my choice. I was forced to leave my country. This is exactly what does it mean to live in a community that there is no social justice. Means that you live in Lebanon, and every time I was going out, I had to speak in a Lebanese accent, because if I spoke in a Syrian accent in the streets, you know this type of discrimination, you know this type of like you are not welcomed anymore in that community. I had to speak in a different accent because I'm Syrian. Is that how we are as human beings? We are in the 21st century. How we should live, even if we became refugees, if there is anything happened in our country and forced us to leave anytime. I then left, you know, and I said that I could do anything. I joined the United Nations, and I was doing everything I could just to help the refugees to live in a social justice situation, because I said that's enough. And I said that's enough to hear my siblings screaming in the tent that divides them on the outside by just a few millimeters when the degree in Bicavale in Lebanon became -10 in winter. So I said to myself, no, I can do something. I can just go and initiate. I joined the United Nations, and I was helping the Syrians there. Then I went to the Canadian embassy, and here the story started. Since the time I entered the Canadian embassy in Beirut, the first thing I was given is the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. The Canadians believe in their embassies that anybody should visit the embassy should know that Canada stands for just freedom and human rights. After that, a royal flight was booked for me and my family when the campaign started to bring the Syrian refugees to this country. And I flew from Lebanon to Canada. And when I arrived to Toronto Airport, what does it mean to live in a social justice? I was welcomed in Toronto Airport in a way of 2 rows of Canadian officers. They were welcoming me and saying, welcome to Canada. This is your country. This is a new homeland. I felt myself living in a social justice means that if you are a newcomer, came to a new country, you feel yourself as I'm the prime minister. Don't tell him that. My family came with me. We had no idea what we will face in this country. We had no idea how the system is working here. We had no idea if we will meet, welcoming people, or if we will be rejected or isolated in a community. By the way, we didn't choose to live in Antigonish. Antigonish just picked us. And when I arrived in Halifax Airport, they told me that you are traveling to Antigonish, and I said, what is that? I Googled it, and I found it difficult even to find it on Google, After that, I found it finally, and I drove 3 hours from Halifax Airport. We arrived here finally, and we found that the Canadian community in this town is the most welcoming community on earth. And I started to understand justice, the social justice, by 2 things. The first, justice by equality. Wherever I am now in Canada, I am dealt as any Canadian citizen in this country. Nothing different, wherever I am. At the hospitals, at the grocery stores, in the streets, at the libraries, doing public speeches, more than Canadians. I understood that being a newcomer, even if I left my home country, and everybody from you should know that he's a newcomer in a way in his life. We are newcomers if we are newcomers to love, if we are newcomers to the university, we are newcomers to a new society if we left our towns to another town. We are newcomers if we got married. We are newcomers in any way. Even if you read a new book, you will become a newcomer to that book. I understood that this country really stands for these values of freedom and equality. Since we arrived here, huge opportunities were offered to us. And this is the social justice by offering opportunities. Since the time that we came to this country, and everybody told us that you are Canadians. What does it mean? It means that you are confident to succeed in your new home country, even if you are a stranger. We felt that we will be in a different country. We traveled 7,000 kilometers from the Middle East to here with no idea about what we will face. Offering opportunities to newcomers can help them to succeed. And that's exactly what happened with my family when my father asked me, we lost everything that I have been building since 40 years. And you too. I was supposed now to be practicing medicine as a physician in a Syrian hospital. I finished my degree. My father said, what shall we do now in this country? We ended the first month. That was in February 2016. Everybody in Antigonish, because they believe that this is the country, everybody should live equal, they came to us. 50 people from Antigonish, they applied when we asked for help to rebuild our business. They came. You can't imagine that business counselors, carpenters, everybody could help in anything to rebuild our factory, came and helped us. That made us so confident that we are in the real country. We are in the country that respect everybody came here, with experiences and with skills. We maybe lost everything. We thought that we would start from zero, like any newcomer, like any refugee. But we didn't. We started more over than zero. I just realized also social justice before 2 weeks. I was in Montreal, and I was planning to go to United States. People there, they invited me, the governor of Vermont. He said, we are really impressed by your story, by Peace by Chocolate story, and we believe that United States now needs to hear that story. I was in Montreal. I rented a car, and I drove to the borders. That was after Mr. Trump's inauguration by one day. It was on Sunday. When I arrived at the borders, the first question I was asked, where are you from? Even if I had the visa, I had the permanent resident card, I had everything I needed. They asked me the first question, where are you from? It was not in a kind way. They really cared where I'm from. And when I told them that I'm from Syria, it was a horror movie. I'm not going to tell you what happened because it's 7 p.m., it should be in the morning. So I really understood then that there are people on this planet, they care where the others are from, because to ban them, to deal with them differently, even if I'm from Syria, why you are asking me why I'm from Syria? I'm different than anybody else. I breathe like anybody else. I eat like anybody else. I move like anybody else. I work like anybody else in this country. Why you are asking me where I'm from? When I came to Canada, nobody asked me at the airports, where are you from? The first sentence we heard was, welcome to Canada. And nobody in Toronto airport, when I arrived, he said, if you are from Syria, you are banned from this country. No, they received us with flowers at the airports. Finally, to this country that offered us just to live in a democratic, social justice, in a happy community, to be equal like anybody else, we have nothing to deal with it, even with respect and love. And the second thing, we face problems as newcomers, but because of the social justice that is available here in this community, we felt ourselves like Canadians. The third thing and the last thing, we really believe that our home is freedom, and our heart is full of peace. Thank you so much.